with his amazing story, Changing My Way. Please welcome Doug Friedlander.
My way has always been the same. To wake up, take whatever is at hand, and make something else out of it. One of my earliest memories is of how Mama used to like to regale the people who stopped to admire her golden child with the stories of how from the moment I could climb out of the crib, I would run to the walls, put my hands in my diapers, and then finger paint with color of my own creation with gleeful, omnipotent abandon. 3 weeks after I entered kindergarten, Mama was called for a conference, one of many at the school. It seems we were to paint our ideas of heaven. I had pictured myself standing naked in a garden of poppies, with the sun shining down on me like on ancient Egyptians in days of old. Mama was in the house looking at me, smiling out the window, and God was up in the corner spitting chocolate ice cream down. The school was disturbed. But it was when I got to junior high school that my way became more difficult. At that time, I would wake up and be grateful if I hadn't peed the bed, which I sometimes still did. Then I would pray that I fell out of the top bunk so that I wouldn't have to go to school, which I had come to hate. The thing was, I was bullied constantly. I was bullied constantly. I didn't know who it was I was to become. And the only thing that I could do with any kind of competence was art in art class. Well, one day in February of 1955, after gym period, a 9th grader by the name of Jack Evans pinned me naked up against a shower wall. I didn't know what to do. I was panting for breath, and I hyperventilated, and I slipped down the shower wall to the floor. Now, because I was in junior high school, my bedtime had been extended so that I could watch a grown-up TV show. The Medic with Richard Boone was a realistic doctor procedural show. And the episode I saw was about something I had never heard about before. It was called epilepsy. Now, as I came to on the shower floor, it came to mind. And I didn't know how to explain why I was laying on the floor and Jack Evans was looking down at me. And so I started to twitch and writhe, and I fabricated a seizure. Well, by this time, the other students were there, and so was the gym teacher. Now, the upshot of this experience was I didn't get beat up or whatever else was going to happen. Jack Evans, the 9th grader, was expelled. And the gym teacher was kind to me and called me Doug instead of Friedlander for the very first time. It also set the stage for a pattern that was going to be hard to change. My art teacher calls me up to her desk, and she says she's going to send an unsatisfactory notice home to my parents. The problem is I haven't finished all the projects that need to be in my folder for open house. Well, my projects are very detailed, and I work on them very diligently. And I didn't know they needed to be finished anyway. Who the hell fails at art when they're an artist? I become lightheaded and I fall down to the floor. And I start convulsing. Well, the nurse and my parents are called. And I don't have to wait for the mail to come home. I get to go home with my parents. And everyone is more concerned with what's wrong with me than all the crap in the folder anyway. And strange doctors become involved. And my life is about to change. Well, you know, art is one thing. Everything is just school. But on March 19th, 1955, I'm taken to St. Joseph's Hospital for an electrocephalogram. As they place the metal tabs on my skull, I hyperventilate, and it's determined that I had a seizure while the test was being made. Now, there was a physical reaction, but I was aware that somehow, somewhere, I was in control of it. Now, as I look back on it, I suppose my circumstance and that trick of fate that happened in the shower room had turned me somehow instantly into a consummate method actor. I was taken to the Vocational Guidance Center, the Los Angeles Vocational Guidance Center, and given a battery of tests. I was given drugs that changed my brain waves and muddled my thinking. I was given an IQ test and shown Rorschach cards. I drew pictures of myself and of men and of women and of other children, and I made up stories about them. I was so torn between my guilt and the fear of becoming exposed. On the way to school, I wrapped up the medicine that I was supposed to take in tinfoil, and I put it in an empty tree trunk. Well, I finally got my way, and I was removed from public school. I had a home teacher for the next semester, and I was happy I didn't have to face school anymore, but there was no end to this horrible lie I had created. And after all the tests, I began to think I was insane. I loved my parents, and I didn't know how to get out of it. One day they were fighting over me. I hated that. They were in the living room. I was in the kitchen. And I screamed and threw myself through the door and on to the dining room floor and writhed. They stopped arguing. It seemed that going into my act worked for every situation. Well, one day, my mother my mother was going to go to lunch at the house of the girl that I had gone steady with in the 6th grade. Now, I got to go with her, of course. My mother was very good friends with this girl's mother. Now, she had gotten a baby duck for Easter. I desperately wanted a baby duck. My parents said no way, but I wanted it my way. So I was already crazy, right? So I just pretended to have an imaginary duck that I cuddled and cooed to and talked to and carried around relentlessly around the house. And my parents acquiesced. And I got a baby duck. Well, the LA Vocational Guidance Center said that we should all have counseling at a price my folks could never afford. So in October of '55, they took me to another team of doctors. The drugs all changed. I was given more tests and more questions. I had become surly and uncooperative. My folks, in an effort to make me more comfortable around other boys, took me under duress to join Vic Tanny's gym. Dick Long was the manager there. Can't you just see him? He was going to walk us through a program that was going to change me from the Gollum I was into the Hulk in no time. So, of course, my folks signed me up for a year. Well, by the 3rd time I went, Dick Long was in short supply. And there was nobody there to help me. All there were monsters, pressing, hissing, squatting. I couldn't stand it. They were covered in oil and giving me what I perceived as dirty looks. Well, that didn't last very long. I would not go. Well, after a semester off, it was decided I'd return to school. I missed the socialization, but there was still gym period. Well, I had been doing better, but I was jarred by a film we were seeing. It was the new challenge that we were going to face. Yes, football and baseball hadn't been bad enough. Now we were going to do track and field. There was going to be the pole vault and the high jump. Well, I don't know. I guess it's true. Maybe I'm some kind of sissy or something. But do I have to live every single day in fear and torment? I without even thinking, throw myself from the top row of the bleachers as high as I can into the air before I even think about the asphalt floor below. I'm in an ambulance. The siren is deafening. They've got me at St. Joseph's again. They're going to put needles in me. They're giving me shots. I hate shots. I decide in that instant, I will never trip, stumble, fall, faint, or seizure again. I make a deal with a kind gym teacher. He puts me in the supply room, and I become the permanent custodian of the school athletic equipment. We tell everybody else I have an ulcer. That's his idea. By the time I graduate from high school, I'm riddled about phobias of any place where men will gather, barber shops, gas stations, any place. By the time I'm 20, I've checked myself into therapy. And then at 21, it's time to enlist in the military or be drafted. Well, my shrink told me he could get me out of it. But I remembered junior high. And I know if I'm going to survive, I just have to face it. So, I join the army. Yes, sir. I change my way. Well, a little.